Hi and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Olight Warrior 3. This is the first Olight flashlight that I've actually reviewed. I've got this flashlight on loan just to complete this review, and I can say I'm pretty impressed. It's the first one that I've actually used before. I've seen them in the shops, but I've never actually taken one out of the package or bought one myself. So I was always quite curious to see how they would actually perform. And they are quite a mainstream light. They've got quite a large following as well. So I thought it would be quite good to do a review of this one and just let you know what my thoughts are. So let's go through and talk a bit about the build, the design. And one of the first things you'll find with these flashlights, there's actually quite a few different finishes. So this comes in the camouflage finish. There's also, I think, orange, black, and another color. I'm not sure. I think it's probably just flat green. So they do tend to come. Olight just produce them in a few different colors, and I actually quite like this one, this camouflage color. I know for some people it could be a bit too gaudy and a bit out there, but I actually kind of like it. And yeah, it's interesting how they've managed to put that pattern on. Maybe they've actually anodized it first and then gone over a second time round with some of this gold paint and finish again. So it actually feels quite durable, and it's certainly got this sort of smooth finish to it. It's got more of a shiny sheen sort of finish. So I'm used to flashlights that have more of a matte black kind of finish. And for those of you looking for something that looks a bit different, I think Olight offers quite a few different options there, especially with this particular flashlight. They don't stock this one anymore, the Warrior 3. They actually have replaced it with the Warrior 3S, and that comes with a proximity sensor. And that's another thing I've noticed about Olight, that they have some of the newest technology and they're quite innovative in what they come up with. So I'll go through some of the other features and a few things that I haven't seen on this light as well. So in terms of the design, you can see the bezel. It's this crenulated bezel. It's quite sharp, actually, and having that in my pocket, I don't know if I'd have it kind of facing down. I'd put it facing up in my pocket, probably be better in case I've got something else in there. Definitely will scratch whatever else is in your pocket, but this would be great for breaking glass. You can't unscrew the bezel, and that's one of the things with Olight. Apparently with their flashlights and a lot of these mainstream lights, you're unable to just get into the hardware. And that's due to the warranty conditions. They probably just don't want people going in there fiddling around with things and accidentally breaking the flashlight. And you'll notice here on the bezel as well, there are these tiny little cutouts, these interesting little cutouts. I don't know what they kind of look like horseshoe symbols or whatever, but I do like that. It's a different style of cutout. You've got this area here, this anti-roll feature near the button. The button is sits it sits flush with the surface, and it's quite difficult to press as well. So it's not. Of course, you've got to press it a little bit, but I like that so that it doesn't it doesn't accidentally get pressed while in your pocket. I have found a few of these e-switch buttons, especially with some of my flashlights like the Spiros M4. It does turn on automatically in your pocket if you're not careful. So I've got that anti-roll feature. The knurling here is a little bit more pronounced, and I think that's necessary given how smooth the actual finish of the flashlight is. So you have a look at the tail switch as well. There's also these kind of interesting cutouts. Quite like that design. You've got a reversible clip here. Now the tail switch is really interesting. It's like a dual stage tail switch. So you can press it halfway, and that actually activates the medium mode, and then full way activates turbo. And I'll give you just a little look of the on the tail switch there, and it's also magnetic. And I don't have the charger with it, but Olight have a proprietary charger that you need to use with this flashlight. You stick it on the end there, and it charges the battery while it's inside the flashlight. But I do like the design of it, and yeah, just that little finish that you see in the center. There's this little polished circular area, these three little raised bits as well. Certainly the machining, they've put in a little bit more effort with just these little details, these little intricate details of the light. Overall machining and build quality, as you can see, is pretty good. I don't have any issues there. There's no sharp bits or any nicks, anything like that. The anodization is fully covering the flashlight. Of course, the top of the light does have this sharpened sort of bezel, which is something to keep in mind as well. Let's have a look at the battery. Now, Olight actually have, like I mentioned before, proprietary battery that you need to use with the flashlight. This is what it looks like here. Olight 21700, 5000 milliamp hour cell. And the interesting thing is that it has this kind of black ring around the top, just separating the positive terminal from the rest of the battery. And this is quite interesting. Like, I've noticed something similar that Immolent uses on their batteries as well for the MS03. But the difference is that the MS03 can accept non-proprietary 21700 cells. But with the Warrior 3 and the Warrior 3S, just like a lot of Olights, they do have these proprietary batteries that you have to purchase separately. They can be a bit pricey, so that's something to keep in mind, and also that charger. But then again, you do get that technology of the magnetic charging. I haven't actually seen that on other flashlights before. Here you can see down the base of the tube, you can see a little spring. It looks to be slightly flattened, and it looks to be polished copper. So it's nicely finished, that's for sure. And the threads are square cut. Square cut threads, as you can see, anodized all the way through. And closer look at the tail switch as well. It's just a kind of a bit of copper up the top, what I think is copper anyway, that connects to the negative terminal. So, another thing to mention is that the tail switch is also magnetic. As you can see, it picks up the battery, but I did actually try to stick it onto my desk, just the side of my desk, and it will not hold it facing sideways horizontally. So if you try to stick it onto whatever this way, it just slides down. It's not powerful enough. But if you're working, I don't know, underneath a car or something like that, you can actually stick it up and it will hold it. Hold it facing down or facing up. Facing up, I don't think is really a big issue, because you're going to be, it's going to be basically a horizontal area anyway, so there's not going to be any sliding. But it's good that you can actually stick it onto, basically a car, or maybe the bottom of a desk or a table or something like that, to keep the light pointing downwards. Here are a few different lights. I thought that I would go through and just show you the size difference. It's a 21700 cell flashlight, but it is pretty slim. Almost, I mean, if I look at the battery tube for my Convoy M2, it's pretty much identical, so it's really just a little bit slightly wider. The Convoy has some cutouts at the side, but even with the head, it's smaller, of course, but doesn't throw as far. I'll talk a bit about that later. But definitely in terms of other 21700 cell lights that I have, and I've got my Next Torch E52C, for example, and my Nightcore P23i, which I believe has the same emitter as the Warrior 3. As you can see, it's significantly smaller in terms of the head size, and even with the rest of the battery tube and the tail switch design. M21B, my Convoy M21B, definitely larger, even in the battery tube itself and in the head. Now, Olight don't actually release the names of the LEDs in their lights, so you have to figure that out for yourself. And, it's kind of difficult to see just under the camera. Bit tricky to see here under the camera because the lens is a little bit frosted. But that to me looks like an SFT70. Okay, the yellow dye surface is pretty much the same size as the dye surface of my Nightcore P23i, and the footprint as well looks pretty much identical. I think this is the SFT70. The light is rated at 2300 lumens, and the SFT70 is capable of producing a lot more lumens than that. Think about double the lumen output. But with a flashlight host of this size, I think it was wise of Olight to run that LED lower, and basically so that it doesn't heat up as quickly, and you get some additional sustained output. The lens is a TIR lens, small sort of lens. Just do a quick measurement. So it's about 26 millimeters in diameter, the head of the flashlight. The battery tube is roughly around the same as well. So it's pretty much the same size. I mean, the battery tube would be maybe a millimeter or two less, but there's this little chunky bit that sticks out the front of the head. So probably for a bit of heat sinking and, just to make it anti-roll. I'm not so sure if there's actually glass protector on the TIR lens, or if the TIR lens is actually made of glass. It's in there pretty tight, so when I'm kind of flicking it, it's very hard to tell just from the sound. It's sort of very dull kind of sound. Normally TIR lenses are made of polycarbonate, and yeah, but it's hard to see if there's actually a bit of protector glass in it. I'm sure some of you guys might know if you own one, but I'm not sure. I talked a bit about the bezel before. You can't take it out. Would have been nice if it was some like reversible bezel or something you could just stick back in, or even just remove completely. I think that would have been good, so that it just doesn't disturb you with the sharpness of the edges. I don't really mind it. I just wouldn't put it facing down into my pocket. One of the really cool things I like about the Warrior 3 is that there are 8 LEDs near the button. The little lights indicate the brightness that the flashlight is currently running at, and also a battery indicator here. So if we press that button, you'll see the lights light up. So that means full battery. Okay, on that side, full battery, and then here, basically 1 bar, meaning 25% brightness. And as you press and hold the button, you ramp up. So that's medium, high, okay, and then it goes back down again. So low, hold the button, medium, high. So that's kind of how you ramp the flashlight up and down. If you want to access turbo, you got to double press, okay, that will give you turbo. And in the daily mode, basically, you can actually, turn the flashlight on and off from that button. Okay, another thing you can do is also press and hold that button, and you get a moonlight mode, which is really cool. Okay, now what is this tail switch for? So in the daily mode, if you press and hold down that tactical switch, you get that 50%, so medium output. Okay, and basically the light figures out that you're holding down that button and you're using tactical mode, momentary mode, and it will switch off as soon as you release the button. And same thing goes for turbo. You can press and hold that button all the way down. Okay, you get access to turbo, and then you let go, and then automatically it just switches off. Now, if you actually press the button halfway really quickly like that, it will activate that medium mode. Okay, you press it again to turn off. Press the button fully, okay, quickly, and you've got turbo. Okay, so you can actually go from medium and then press also to access turbo from medium. And if you want to access the strobe feature, it's triple click, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that will allow you to triple click. Now, there's the tactical feature of the flashlight. So basically, you press and hold that back button, and then press the soft button. Okay, and this switches over to the tactical mode. So half press will give you turbo, and full press will go to strobe. The tactical setting is useful if you need to access that turbo mode and the strobe very quickly, especially the strobe, that one step strobe, just by pressing that button all the way down. I think that's a really good feature. And sometimes when you're in a difficult situation where you just don't have time to think, you want to activate that strobe really quickly, often the instinctual reaction is just to mash that button. And certainly, that allows you to access that strobe very quickly. In tactical mode, if you want to access all the normal modes, so low, medium, high, that has to be done with this switch here, okay? And the good thing is that it has mode memory, so you can just leave it on in the lowest mode, okay, and be able to access that as well. And that's something that I found to be annoying on some tactical flashlights, that no matter what you do, it just accesses turbo straight away. So this UI is interesting. It's quite good actually, because But with this UI, you can access turbo, and you can also access the low mode through this button as well. So really impressed with the way Olight have designed this flashlight, and I do like the addition of these little indication LEDs here as well. Something you just don't see on a lot of other flashlights. So let's talk a bit about performance, and I'll go through these ceiling bounce tests that I ran, and you can see I activated the flashlight straight away onto turbo, and it slowly starts to drop. So you notice around just after the 1 minute mark, a sharp downwards drop, and it just continues on until about 2.5 minutes. And from that 2.5 minute point, the flashlight runs at about 30% of its total brightness compared to the turbo. So it does sustain its lumen output in the beginning, which I think is really important. But with the size of this flashlight, you can't expect it to maintain that for very long. I sort of touched the flashlight a little bit halfway during the test as it was starting to ramp down. It was really, really hot in the head, but surprisingly, it wasn't so hot down the actual battery tube. So good to note, because you don't want too much heat in that battery itself. And what I tried to do near the end of the test, I tried to reactivate turbo, turn it off, turn it on again, just to reactivate that turbo, and it would not go back to that turbo unless it was completely cooled. So that's something to keep in mind. I know some of you like to use that turbo reactivation just to push things a little further, but seems like there's some type of lockout feature once it hits turbo and maybe starts ramping down. So I also did some measurements with my Olight Master Pro on turbo. I got 31,125 candela, which is 352 meters of throw. That's pretty good for such a little flashlight like this. And I think it's that combination of the TIR lens and the SF70, that de-domed LED that I think is in there, that creates that extra throw. High 11,500, so you got 214 meters on high, medium 110 meters, and low 31 meters. I also ran a ceiling bounce test for the medium and the high mode, and I didn't find them to ramp down after a few minutes. So the CCT ranged from 5,201 on low up to 5,771 on high, which is pretty good, because I thought this, with the SFT 70, it's usually, you're looking at 6,000 plus K. So it's slightly warmer. I guess it's more neutral on the neutral end, which is good. The color rendering index, hovered between 64 to 66. So not the best there, but again, this is a tactical flashlight design for visibility. It's not a priority for recognizing colors, though you're going to be able to recognize general colors under there fine. It's just not going to be something like a Nichia 519A performance. The beam profile is really nice. I like the large hotspot that you get from this light. It's really large and smooth hotspot. The spill also is just a nice diffuse spill, and I find that to be the case with a lot of these TIR lights. They have a different beam profile than reflector lights. Reflectors have some ringiness in it. There's a large separation between the hotspot and the spill. There's definitely a significant separation between the hotspot and spill with this flashlight, but it does blend nicer and it's softer. I don't know how to explain it, but in the beam shots, you'll be able to see what I mean. Looking at the specs that Olight have released, they say essentially that you get 2,300 lumens for 2.5 minutes, 800 lumens for 160 minutes, and 250 lumens at 39 minutes, an additional 39 minutes. Now, certainly, when I was doing that ceiling bounce test, the turbo only lasts just over a minute, so you're not going to get the whole 2,300 lumens for sure on the first level, but they're probably just measuring that overall runtime, including all of the ramp downs and step downs as well. Practicality wise, I think the UI, the 21700 cell, the fact that you've got so many different modes in there that you can just use it as a general EDC light by using that soft switch, that E-switch on the side there to cycle through the different modes. And it's also got that memory mode. I think it's really versatile for general use. And also if you're using this as a professional device, so if you're a, in security, law enforcement, that kind of thing, you've got that access to that one-step strobe and momentary mode as well, turbo. I actually really like the UI, and I thought initially that the e-switch would be kind of confusing to use, but at the end of the day, you only use it when you need to use it. I think the intuitive thing is just to use it as a tactical flashlight, and if you have it on daily mode, it's good as well that you've got that two-step button at the back, which gives you medium and then turbo on the momentary, so you don't have to just blind yourself essentially by activating turbo all the time. Most of the switches just include turbo, and that's pretty much about it. So overall, I am, like I said, I'm very impressed with the Warrior 3, and it's the first Olight that I've had the pleasure of reviewing, and I like the output, I like the design of it, the finish, the overall quality. I like the UI. I love tactical flashlights, so this is something that I definitely keep on me. It's easily pocketable. You can fit that in to your jeans pocket. The only things that you might want to keep in mind of, again, is that proprietary battery. You're gonna have to buy them, from Olight, and the charging as well. So if you lose that cable, you're gonna have to buy another one. I think they're about 20 something bucks online. So let me know what you think of this light, whether you have one or maybe you're thinking of buying one. And if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. If you like the video, do me a favor and click the like button, because that helps me gets my video out to more people. And if you want to see me make more review videos, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching.